Cold War, the Forgotten Front.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Justin Vermaak from Recce Incorporated. Welcome to the Recce Gaming Challenge. With me in the studio, I've got Johan. He's your games master that sets up all the missions for us. Hello, Johan. Welcome. Alright, so we've come to the end of round one, which is Mission Zeelie. I must say up front, I've been very impressed with the quality of the games play. There's been some really good gaming in between here. In particular, I think the guys from 75th did some really nice planning. Guys from Zulu Alpha had great results. Guys from JRAS also, bad luck a little bit on the way the mission panned out for them. And then of course the British with their humour. Is always good to have the humour in the team. Where they lacked a little bit sometimes, they've made up with the humour. It's been a lot of fun. As you all know, the mission challenge is out there to challenge you gamers to see who can play the best. And we decided to keep it as authentic as possible. That's why it's based on real missions. So in preparation for this, we've spent a fair amount of time building the Angola map. So thanks, Ice, for your map. Must admit, when my old army colleagues saw the map, you could see their eyes squint and then stand up and stare at the map. It's been that authentic. It's a real great effort to plan the map like that. And it makes for a real challenging terrain, knowing that there's no features, there's nothing, it's just you and the bush, the African bush, and like they always say, the bush is neutral. So let's see who's going to make it up in this challenge for now. We've had the mission, as everybody knows, was to find the insurgents on the other side with the water holes. You've all had your time to prepare, and everybody's had a good go at it. So let me say up front, we're very happy with the quality, and let me congratulate our winner Zulu Alpha. We think you guys did a great job. It's obviously you guys play and work well and work hard together as a team. Really nice to see the preparation that's gone into it. For the guys that didn't make it, better luck next time.
Justin, this was one of the most entertaining things I've ever seen. Some of these teams had me sitting on the edge of my seat the whole time as they were playing. A lot of times you would want the guys to not fall into the traps that you set for them, and then still be glad when they do fall into those traps. Overall, I think the teams that participated did some very good gameplay, and all of them had great sportsmanship.
So before we go on and look at it, maybe you want to tell us how much effort you put into to prepare for this mission, and give us a little bit of the background.
Well, Justin, a lot of hard work has gone into this. As all of us behind the scenes would know, that months of research, first of all, went into this, and literally thousands of man hours went into building the stuff from the map. Over 200 hours went into the actual building of the map after months of research. From the Arms Corps team, thousands of hours went into creating the base models for the vehicles and weapons and stuff. Also from the Jake's team, reskinning stuff. So it's been wonderful. It's been an absolutely great team and a strong team, putting thousands of hours just to present the foundation of being able to play this game.
Let's get on with it and go and see how it went.
There are areas in there for...
Okay, so let's join the Zulu Alpha gameplay. They've just started their mission, and this is the part of the mission where the mission commander tells you about the who, what, where, when, why, and with what of the operation. So this is the most important part of the mission. If you don't get this right, as the mission unravels, things will get worse and worse and worse. So let's hear what they've got to say.
Uniform. Strength is estimated at 30 to 40 insurgents. Mostly their location will be north of the cut line.
Okay, now for those of you that don't know, the cut line, the red line you see on your map, was physically just a line in the sand that separated Namibia or Southwest Africa from Angola. It was pretty much like little kids on a school ground. If you step over this line, I'm going to punch you. And that's pretty much how it worked there.
Possible enemies hiding amongst the northern and southern civilians. That is not confirmed, it's a possibility. Likely heavy enemy forces to the north of the road, particularly in enemy territory. So that's north of the cut line. And we have a possibility of some enemies on the southern side of the cut line.
Okay, so we see the guys are providing really for the enemy on the other side of the line, so we're going to expect them to be pretty relaxed this side. We'll see how it goes.
They will likely be close to water holes. And when spotted, they will attack, and possible patrols will reinforce from nearby areas. So once we engage them, keep your eyes open on the job at hand, but also keep a scout eye on surrounding areas. There might be nearby patrols that will come in. Friendly forces, other units in the area is 2 Bushman scouts from our own regiment, wearing brown vests with camo pants. Please remember that, do not shoot them.
Yeah, that's pretty important to make sure whose side is getting shot and whose side is not getting shot. I noticed there with the English team, I can't remember what it was, one chap there, Mo, he got repeatedly told not to shoot own forces and specifically to leave the goats and the other civilians out. I think he may have been Russian.
Yeah. And not to drug anybody or blow anybody up. Quite interesting, one of the other teams, the 160th, accidentally did shoot and kill the 2 scouts.
Yes, I believe they did so. So this is quite a big challenge when you work with 5 different groupings and they all wear the same uniforms. It's quite difficult sometimes to distinguish who's who unless you're really, really well organized on the ground.
Scouts will then lead us to the enemy locations, and then
so Johan, maybe while they're explaining, you can tell us how the mission was set up.
will be identified. Dragon 1 and Dragon 2 will move
So,
to Land Rover to designate
the objectives from here were to meet up with the scouts at the location that gives the scout position, and after that you'd have the options to have the scouts take you to any of the war trolls in any order that you want. So along the way there's a few surprises that we will discuss as they get into those areas that were left for the guys there. But ultimately at either War Troll 3 or north of War Troll 3 or at War Troll 4 there would be quite a major force waiting for the guys. So with Zulu Alpha especially avoiding the roads, they were one of the few teams that avoided the roads, which was a very good idea because we had about 14 or so or 20 different mines that had a 1 in 4 chance of pointing on that route.
Okay, just 1 second. I want us to listen to the RV procedures for last known point.
Sure.
What about once you pass the cut line?
We will instruct new RV points once we get into that location, because I do not have any further instructions on how far we'll actually go. I mean, we know where water holes is in the areas, but we don't know concrete where we're going to move to.
Okay.
Who's going to have the concise instruction to work with the scouts?
The guy closest to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there you can see they are going through their drills. As they go through the operation, something goes wrong, we go back to the last known point.
Units being engaged. This is if you get engaged, you will find hard cover or hit the deck. Non-engaged units will then initiate the flank immediately and engage contacts.
And this was a very important part of their strategy.
Yes, I think this was the only team that decided that they're going to use the infantry to walk first and leave the vehicles as an attack or a strike force, as opposed to the rest that put the vehicles forward, if I'm correct.
That's correct. The 75th had a similar approach, but they had more of their vehicles further back, and their vehicles were split up quite far, quite thinly spread. So they had the same concept, but they spread themselves too thinly.
Yeah, listen, I must admit, I think for most of the guys it's probably going to be pretty daunting operating in the Angolan terrain. Remember, the area that you're looking at on that map is dead flat. If you go and look at Google Earth, you'll notice that in a 400-kilometer east-west, the decline, the elevation, drops with only 3 meters. So it's almost like a dam.
Wow.
So it's very, very hard to navigate, and it's very, very hard to see through the bush. So the only time you can really get to see forward is when you have open areas, and then obviously that's always going to be a possibility of ambush there. So I would think that this would have challenged the players tremendously. I'm not sure what your feedback was from the players.
They were challenged properly.
Succession of command. Raven, then Phoenix, then Bucky's, then Muppet, then Sherman. Frequencies and call signs is default. Smoke to be used in emergencies. And regular updates is requested.
Okay, with 3 radios, I imagine that goes to CO, SL, and Dragon 2.
User in your channel timed out.
The radios was one of the big complaints with regards to just having 3 radios. Would you like to tell us a bit more about that?
You know, when I heard you guys complain about the radios, it's not enough. At the time this mission took place in 1974, radios was quite a novel thing. Maybe your team leaders and your stopper groups would have radios, but all the rest of the people would not have. In other words, 3 radios in this regard would be a luxury. So very, very, very much so. It's a question of hand signals. You'd see in the bush the guys would be sitting there and forward. So it's something that we would like to see a bit more in the future. It's have less reliance on radio, less reliance on GPS, and maintain contact. Because when you hit the contact, when it's time, it's you and the enemy. Then you need to be orientated on who's where. This is not something you can manage by radio. So. And in this operations, you have to maintain contact in the bush. Once you've lost contact, you're going to get isolated, you're going to get wiped out.
We'll be able to have it, so you can navigate on that as well if needed. Traveling will be done per vehicle. Once we get to waypoint 8, we'll dismount some of the guys, and then the vehicles will travel back to base, pick up the rest, and come back the same route.
All right, Johan, I noticed you guys didn't load up everybody on this mission. Is that a limitation of the AI? Why would one travel up and back? Is that because you couldn't load enough people in the vehicles?
From what I understand, in this case, the commanding officer decided that they wanted to have guys on foot, but they didn't want to leave a vehicle behind where the enemy could get hold of it. So instead of taking a bunch of guys and then leaving a vehicle behind, they decided to ferry the guys up north.
I'm happy with the ferry. I just trying to work out why they just didn't put everybody on the vehicles in the first place.
Oh, the vehicles in this one only has 4 places for people to put in. So
okay, so it's a game's limitation. It's not a tactical thing.
Okay. Yeah, it's a game's limitation.
Okay, so we can't mark them down for this, right?
No, we can't. However, we are still busy building on new Land Rovers that have more space on the bonnet, etc.
Okay. No. Just interestingly enough, you know, when you worked with the UNITA guys and you'd have a gas that's licensed for 12, we would easily put 50 people on there, you know, plus like a week supply. That's why I found it quite strange. Okay, got it.
Yeah, these are British Land Rovers, not South African Land Rovers.
That makes all the difference. Now we understand it.
As I said in training, in case any of you remember from DT, that's traveling over watch and counter ambush far. So in case that's familiar to anyone.
This is also important. This helped a lot with their success in the final contact.
The area south of the cut line is
with the travel over watch. That's exactly what they said in the beginning of the briefing as well.
Guys doing it with the vehicles to come back to base, please take careful note or make adjustments on your map to make sure that you get there and back as effectively as possible without getting lost.
Yeah, I think this is probably going to be the biggest challenge for the players is the terrain. When you're walking in dead flat and you have no reference point and the only thing you can see is trees, you need to have a real good sense of direction, and that obviously comes with a lot of experience, but eventually you learn to walk just with feeling the heat on the cheeks, so you know that you're walking in the general direction. You will learn to navigate without looking at a compass, because whilst you look at a compass you can't use your eyes to see, and you should be observing for that small stuff, and it is not so easy. So good luck to the players.
To carry half the next team, or we carry the whole CO unit, and then the 2 vehicles will move back while the 1 fire team and the 1 vehicle stays up at the cut line while the other 2 vehicles goes and fetch the 2nd fire team. I think that's the way to go. I think that's the route we take. Radios will be 1 for CO, 1 for SL, and
I'll probably give it to 1-2, right?
yeah,
I'll stick with 1-1.
yeah, we do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so 1-2 FTL, SL, and CO will have radio.
Understood.
Vehicles, you will communicate on the vehicle with the vehicle. I'll also be in vehicles, so I can relay to ground units.
Sorry, Johan was asking frequency. We did mention it earlier. You said default, which is just 30 megahertz.
30, yeah.
Okay, carry on.
All right. Any questions?
According to your AO, that drawing, you said Vic 1, which is 1-1 4-man. Then Vic 2 is 1-2 4-man, and then CO vehicle is CO med driver +1.
Is that an upward?
Yeah. The
Oh yeah, ALP is not fully updated.
no, I'm talking about the image that Raven spent this morning.
Yeah, it's a CO medical.
So that's a very well thought out. You can see they took a lot of time determining that and planning it.
Yes, so I think the point to be made here is just to remind everybody that these guys have spent at least a week preparing for this. It's not the first time they're just sitting and chatting on it. You can see they've spent a lot of time planning their routes. They've worked out what's going to happen if there's an ambush. They've worked out who's going to do what. So this is just a final briefing before you deploy. So this is pre-deployment briefing, and I must admit I am overall with 70% of the teams extremely impressed with the level of planning and effort that's gone into it. I'm not always so sure about all the tactics that's being deployed, but that's the difference between being the military and being a gamer. And once we start getting into the bush, we'll note out all the formal parts where we think everybody can improve on.
Yeah. Well, I for one am very impressed about how the guys studied the map and explored the map. In fact, two of the teams discovered an extra war drill that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, I wouldn't use you as the benchmark, Johan. I would always be a bit scared of that one, you know.
Well, the 6 months of planning to build this map with Icebreaker, I should have known about that war drill.
And again, well done to Icebreaker. I mean, this is an exact replica of what was on the ground. I showed this map to a lot of my old colleagues, and we all spent many years and decades in the bush there. And every single one of them, when they saw the map, you could just see them being transported back 30 and 40 years to the time of the conflict. Amazing job. Absolutely amazing job.
It is an amazing job. You'll see from the 160th, the Australian team as well, one of their members had been deployed to Africa, and he also said that this looks exactly the way Africa looked.
In particular, I want to mention, I just wanted to wait where they talk about possible ambushes, and then I want to make a comment on Umdevis.
Keep them driving in the open, which is where they do best.
Right, anything else?
Nope.
Nothing. Do we have a medic?
Okay, so at the end of the briefing, they're getting some feedback. So I just want to make a comment. Wim, which is Sergeant Major or Warrant Officer De Beer, who was one of the scouts on the vehicles on this. He's now 84, and I showed him the gameplay the other day, and I could see his eyes go red as he went back 40 years to the time of the incident, and it was so real, unbelievable. I think that's why I'm enjoying it so much. It's sort of this perfect blend between the military and gaming, which is really what we want to try and create here.
It's fine.
Yeah, no D5. If Recce joins later, then he's a D5, I imagine.
Who's the other guy on my team now? It's Sharky, myself, and Moochies, right. Okay, let's go.
Wait one. Phoenix?
Yeah?
Can I take out the guys to start getting up?
Yes, you can get up.
Alright,
Oh.
so
All right. Anything else on the briefing, you are?
No, what was striking to me, if you look at all the teams, the longer the teams tend to spend on their briefing, the better they tend to fare throughout this challenge. You will have a look at the teams that spent the shortest amount of times on their briefings did not fare as well as the teams that spent longer time. So the longer they did spend on their briefing, the better they did.
I think there's an old saying in the army, proper prior planning prevents poor performance, right? And that's one of the biggest things. I can guarantee you before every operation we would have rehearsed that 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, and if we've done it 100 times the year before, we'll do it 100 times the next day. There is no substitute for rehearsal, and you go through the same thing over and over and over, because when the time comes and you need it, it has to be automatic. You can't sit and figure it out when there's hostile fire coming from the other side. So if you want to win this challenge series, you're going to have to go over this again and again and again.
Okay, you have to go slower.
Yeah, you don't just rush into a battle.
One saving.
Alright, so I confirm this is now where they're busy kitting up. You gave them a nice kit list, and I confirm that you have set your machines that if you put like 10,000 bullets, you won't be able to walk. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So we're using the ACE Advanced Medical System, which means if you get shot, depending on where you get shot, it registers whether you get shot in the head or the chest or the left or right arm or left or right leg. So first off, you need to stop the bleeding, and in general, if a person's been hit seriously, if it's a very serious head wound, he will die instantly. In other occasions, if he's busy bleeding out and he's passed out, he's got 2 minutes that you can stop the bleeding and give him some saline. If you don't do that within 2 minutes, he will die as well. And if he's been shot in the leg, you can bandage up his leg, but he's not going to walk properly. So that you will see from the guys later on in the mission as well. As some of them get hit, they have to be carried.
Okay. Alright, so they've kitted up, they're on their way to meet their scouts, so let's see how they go about it.
So now they're going to go according to Dead Reckoning and go according to the waypoints they've set out for themselves on the map, which you will see there, waypoint 1, waypoint 2.
I love the music, huh? I assume this is...
Now that's truly South African.
It's only the South Africans.
Well, we had a bit of nice karaoke going on from some of the other teams. Like Britain, Britain's got some talent there. And the 160th also has some talent there. You will see in their videos as well when they sing themselves. But yeah, they didn't play the radios as much.
Alright, when I look at the stretch of the video, would it be possible next time to put a bit more of the sound? The sound for me is a bit vague. I can hear them doing the Dead Reckoning, counting 3, 2, 1, knowing that they reached their spot, which is very impressive. I really like what they are doing. I just would like to hear a bit more between the chatter in between, because I think that's where the teams are going to make or lose it. If you lose comms here, you're going to lose your vehicles, you won't find them again.
Yes, that is purely a setting of setting the game sound versus setting the voice sound. In this case, my voice sound as the spectator was not set as high from the TeamSpeak side.
Okay.
So you know, as we progress and all of us still learn, we learn to decrease the game sound a little more and increase the voice sound a little. You will see in the last 2 or 3 videos that's significantly improved.
Great. Alright, so I'm assuming they are still busy with their Dead Reckoning, and when they came to 3, 2, 1, they stopped there in the middle? Or is this maybe a vehicle that broke down? Ah, okay.
No,
One dismount.
Yes, this is a vehicle breakdown, right?
this is a vehicle breakdown. So I love the CO's comments when his vehicle also breaks down. His vehicle will be the last one to break down.
Okay, so I confirmed for the mission we programmed the vehicles to break at random, which was very customary for the vehicles we used to use at the time. These vehicles weren't sort of kept in base and maintained on readiness. They would go for months before they'd see a mechanic or a tiffy. So this was part and parcel of the deployment.
Yeah, so from the in-game time, from the in-game perspective, we had a 2-kilometer stretch of trigger that would randomly break 1 or 2 or all of the vehicles within that trigger, which was set on random timing. So you had a 40% chance of getting through the zone without having a vehicle break. And these guys, well, a lot of the guys had all of their vehicles break. Okay,
Alright.
so they're ready to move on, and then their vehicle's going to brake as well.
Alright, so just from a military point of view, if a vehicle breaks down, no matter what the reason is, you debus all-round defense. In other words, you want to go at least 20-30 meters away from your vehicle. You never know why it's broken.
There's the choice words from the CO.
Piece of shit fucking Land
Someone
Rover.
tell them on the radio.
Yeah, tell them on the radio.
If you're in the car, just stop the vehicle. There's one mechanical failure in the back here.
Is anyone telling them on the vehicle radio? I don't think
So
any
did
radio
you guys swear at the Land Rovers as well?
I think he was pretty mild when the language he used was pretty mild. And this is literally how all operations work. There's a randomness to every operation, and that's why drills are so important. See, this dude is going to lose all his ammunition because he forgot to clear the back.
So here the guys are at the cut line. They're a bit east to where the scouts are located, and they've sent the vehicle. They're sending a vehicle back to go and get the guys that move towards waypoint 1 and 2 on foot.
Alright, so from here on we can start looking at their tactics. They're now into the enemy zone. Let's see how tactically, let's see how they're doing tactically.
Okay.
Send the team out, you go with them and talk with the scouts.
Alright.
So this team will go and meet the scouts, while another team will take a Land Rover to ferry the other guys from that's at the waypoint at the bottom. So this conversation that's going to happen here with the guy standing on the bonnet changed their strategy as to how they would approach the war trolls, and that would ultimately, actually, in my opinion, change the outcome of the game from the gaming side.
Going back and fetching more guys and then doubling that up. If we think about the 4 waterholes that the scouts can go to, I'm thinking that 1 and 2, 3 and 4, if you do them in sequence, he said they're going to move from west to east. Maybe we save some time by starting from the rear, just going to 4 and then 3.
The Bushmen will go on their route. The whole idea is to follow the Bushmen.
Yeah, but you tell them on the radio, do you want them to take you to Waterloo 1, 2, 3 or 4? And then they lead you there.
So you can. Okay.
So in this case, one of the members informed the CO with some new information that he wasn't aware of earlier on, and they changed the whole approach. Would things like that happen often with you guys?
I remember one of the wives making a comment one day when we were planning a bride. She said, I don't know why you guys just start with plan C. Why do you always start with plan B, then change it to B, and then execute C? And it probably comes from this, you know, you plan for plan A based on the information you have, and then as you progress through the operation, the situation on the ground changes, and that's why your ground commander is responsible for making decisions on the ground, and that your tactical HQ commander is only there to coordinate the events of the teams. The guy on the ground, he makes it as he sees it, and we're going to see it again later. You know, it's very easy to sit with a bird's eye view and make comment, but in terrain like this, a ½ meter depression might save you from enemy fire, and standing on the bonnet of a Land Rover on top of an anthill gives you a strategic advantage when terrain is that flat. So you have to rely on your ground commander or your force commander to make the right decisions. And he's going to make it as he receives the information as the situation changes.
Just form echelon left.
So they're forming echelon left. I remember during our talks earlier, also you mentioned with regards to later on where the guys are going to move into the bush, the formation that you would take in real life. In this case, where they're just following the scouts over the open terrains, what formations would you guys be taking?
Yeah, I've sort of on the back of the board there drawn a typical setup that one would see when you would do a follow-up operation. So I think there's a couple of points a couple of things to point out here. One, your scouts are so focused on following the spoor. Remember, they're looking for little disturbances in the soil, a twig that's broke, a bit of dew that's dropped, and the freshness of that is what they are focusing on, because it tells them how long it's been since the enemy's been. So they do not have the ability to observe for far forward. So the support you give to your scouts will determine how good they are with the spoor. If they believe you are good, they will literally almost be on a trot. Not quite like you guys that look like jackrabbits that run here. We can slow them down a bit. And when they say running on the spoor, it's a metaphorical thing, you know. So
the guys from the gaming side all complained about the scouts running so fast so far.
Yeah, so maybe the AI can just trim it down a bit. You know, good patrol speed is 4 to 5 k's an hour. And then if you are sure that you have the general direction, then you would leapfrog the spoor. In other words, your scout would stay on track, then you would send the vehicles out 5 k's ahead, and they would cross the line and pick up the spoor. Once they have the spoor, they would bring up the rear. So instead of running yourself to death and nobody has the ability to stay with the team, you would just pick up the spoor. If you miss the spoor in the front, then it means that they've changed direction wherever they've gone.
Here is one big, very detrimental thing going to happen right now.
Yeah, we should be like here, is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly where I wanted to point now. I think we're in that lower one because it's higher.
Wait. Possible sighting?
Sighting?
80. Tree line, far. Like they're crawling.
So, bearing?
80.
Okay, can you mark this RP3?
Okay, when we this is very nice. This is very nice indication of target. When you give target indication, always direction and distance. So in other words, 2 o'clock, 800 meters. In this case, you say tree line, 80 degrees.
That was well spotted.
RP3.
I think that was a lot of luck and a lot of skill combined.
You guys can see them, eh?
I see them.
Yeah, Roger, I've got them.
And this played a very big detrimental role in the outcome of their game, because now they had an indication of more or less where they could expect hostile contact. And that changed their strategy in the field once again. So, for interest's sake, there were a bunch of scouts. There were 2 teams of, not scouts, of hostiles. There were 2 teams of hostiles, and each of those 2 teams had 3 random spawn points. One of the spawn points was north of where you will see this footpath. Another was south of that, and then another was there by Waterhole 4. So in this instance, the hostile appeared to be leopard crawling from Waterhole 4 to the point just south of the footpath, which is by Waterhole 3. So that's why all of the teams had pretty much different experiences at the Waterhole 3 and 4, because some of them experienced all the contacts at Waterhole 4. So here they're going to try and pull the hostiles out by firing
so the idea
into
is
the air.
Shoot 2 rounds, but
Search by fire.
Distance.
Would you like to tell us a bit about that from your perspective?
It's tough to make comment when one looks at it. It looks like they're on a bit of a high ground here, and it looks like their vehicles is behind the crest. So it does suggest that they are looking sort of concealed. Otherwise, I have no way to explain the casualness with which they stand around and not use the cover. It might be the very relaxed demeanor. Might be the very relaxed demeanor of the goat that's keeping everybody calm there.
Effectively, what they're trying to do, they're trying to draw out the hostiles to come after them, But now, expecting that from the gamers, I specifically set the hostile so that they wouldn't be drawn out. I created it specifically like that, and they did not expect that to happen. So it foiled their plans in that regard.
Yeah, I must admit, let's try and look at the terrain. There's some dead ground between them and where the hostiles are, right? So it's going to be very difficult to fight through this open ground. And so the team here has decided, well, let's shoot look at that goat, man. Isn't that the coolest thing ever? Maybe we can just go behind the goats, you know. So
that's a Recce goat.
It must be a Recce goat.
He fears naught but God.
So what we've got here now is the commander on the ground says, well, I've got this crest that I can hide behind. So you can see, I'm assuming in first person, you can just see the other side, and then there's the dead ground in between you. So this is going to be very tough to fight across this, and we've eventually now got a standoff. So in true military, we've lost the element of surprise. And everybody's standing there saying, well, what the F are we going to do now? So they're not sure whether they should be forming up or whatever. So let's see what happens, and I'll tell you what I think the right approach should have been.
Okay, Bravo moving.
Pal, you watch north.
Moving.
Toko, I want you watching 180, run about 80. Okay.
Johan, did these guys have any mortars with them? Did they have any RPGs with them?
They had the M79 Snotties. You will see them fire it off a few times.
Okay, so this would be out of the range of the M79. I'm guessing we're a good 200, 300 meters between the two opposing parties here.
Yeah, but they did fire it into the closer parts of the dense bushes.
Yeah, sure. Alright, this is probably the worst possible situation you can have for any contact, is where both parties are alerted to who's coming, and the other side might have been dug in, and now you have to do sort of a pure mass firepower assault to come and do this. So if we're going to do this, I'm not sure that I agree with these tactics. I agree with this guy. He was going in the right direction. But I wouldn't leave my mates behind when I do that. We've got a pure standoff now, and now it's about pure skills, who's firing better than who. In this regard, you have to take cover, man. The guys need to go and sit in the bushes, they need to go and conceal themselves, and you need to do something different. I see there in the front there's a green smoke, right? So that means somebody got isolated in the open ground. I think that's almost suicidal. So what we are missing here is a flanking attack. Once you have two frontal assaults, take the vehicles, one team to the left, one team to the right, and get your diagonal fire line. This is an impossible position to work from.
So here they are pulling back into the bushes behind heavy cover.
Yes.
And the one that got killed in action is lying there.
Yeah. So I mean, we give them respect for trying a full frontal attack, but if you're going to do this, you have to put down suppressing fire so you can do proper fire and movement, and it has to happen with real speed. This is a fair fight now, huh?
Yes, if you look at the red traces coming from left, that's all three vehicles firing with all 6 guns.
Yes, right now
laying down suppressing.
Correct. That should precipitate the movement, right?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying is, so the right way to do it is to put one vehicle more to the left, one vehicle more to the right, and so that you can get the guys sort of in a crossfire, especially with the LMBs that has got a lot of rounds. Then you put some suppressing fire, and your advanced team come in proper normal fire and movement. 1 foot on the ground, one next, one right, one next, one right.
One of the other teams, I think it was the 160th, when they fired between the 2 guns on the vehicle, you would hear the one guy shout, "You fire, I fire, you fire,
Correct.
I fire."
That's exactly how it should work.
There's M79.
I've got either the leg. But I've got a radio with me. I've got a radio on me. Grab it in my backpack.
Do you hear it firing again?
Got it.
Actual relay. Someone is falling back over.
Some single shot fire from the R1 there. So I think all of these guys, or most of them, are aware that it's unless you can suppress the fire, you don't fire your rifle on full auto. But still, I did notice some of the guys firing their R1s or their fells on full auto.
Yeah, so
Which you like.
yeah, so when you're going to put down suppressing fire, you can expect the enemy to take cover in the bushes, right? So suppressing fire means you're taking a double tap at the most likely position of the enemy if you can't see any muzzle blast or dust, or if you don't have a clear vision. So that suppressing fire, if everybody stays in his arc of fire, should be enough for 2 or 3 people to stand up and advance without too much risk until the next guy can do it. And then your LMGs on the side just provides the continuity, so the moment they see something pop, they have something to engage. Remember, this is a neutral firefight now. There's no element of surprise. The enemy has got as much firepower. It's purely about who's got the best skill and tactic now.
So at one stage you will see there from the left, which is the north, the enemy is going to start flanking them from the left as well.
Yep.
So in this case the enemy has the advantage of the thick bushes.
Correct.
You see how those incomings are beating up that first landowner?
Yep.
So the green traces are incoming from enemy. The red traces are from our guys.
It looks like the guys are concentrating their fire, so it does seem that they've got sight on the enemy. And it's very consistent fire, so I'm sure we're going to see a result come from this.
Look at the blood on the ground, so somebody's clearly been shot a few times. And you'll see some bloody bandages there as well, which is also a nice feature of the Ace Advanced Medical.
I'm not quite so sure whether I would be driving through the fire arc of my fellow Land Rovers there.
That had to be either good communication or good luck.
Alright, so obviously they feel they've done enough to suppress the guys now, that they wanted to disengage and that they want to consolidate.
So here is what we talked about earlier. One of the guys has been heavily wounded and he can't walk. So his mate's carrying him out to a medic that will stitch him up and give him some in-field treatment. Here we're back to the guy that got killed.
You have a qualified medic or mechanic in our team? Hold on. Mechanic.
Okay, where's our bushman? Does anyone know?
Okay, so they've lost their scouts in the fight, right?
No, the scouts are standing down at Waterhole 3.
Ah, okay.
They called them back. When they realized they came into the hot zone, they called the scouts back to keep them out of harm's way. There you see the ambush, the flanking from the north. They're engaging right now.
John, maybe in the future, ask the guys to alternate every now and again to first person view so that we get a sense of what it's like for the guys and what they are seeing.
Yes, we've actually, on the last two missions, we focused a lot on that as well.
Great.
Check the Victors.
So just for interest's sake, we see here the guys waited a little while to see if something comes out of the bush. In real life, how would you guys, that sudden silence after a heavy firefight, would you also wait a period of time or would you push forward?
Okay, so like we said, you don't want to give the enemy a time to reorganize. When you are dominating the firefight, maintain the momentum and try and work through the objective as quick as you can. This is the most important thing. In this particular instance, we don't know if the enemy was dug in or if they were caught by surprise, and it's only once we sweep the objective we will know what sort of other resistance is still going to be there. Sure, that's normal. Everybody takes up defensive positions. In the background you can hear there's this continuous communication, how everybody is trying to work out where they must go and what they must do. That's very nice to hear. Okay, so he went forward to see whether this thing looks like he's running away a bit there. I'm not sure if that driver got shot or not. That doesn't look like a tactical withdrawal there. Ah, okay. Okay, this is quite a big spread. If you look at the vehicle that's shooting to the left, the guys on the flanking attack, and then the other one on the right. So at this point it's unclear who's dominated the firefight. Okay, so we've skipped a part now, and we're going to where they're going to now go and sweep the objective. Is that right?
That's correct. They followed the footpath trail that was leading from Waterhill 3.
Pulling back. Engine is good or not? Engine is
It's functional, but it's
fucked.
to get some coordination going here. I'm gonna draw fire.
We've seen that quite a few times during this mission as well. People talking about drawing fire, and then the other forces engaging. What would your comment on that be?
Jan, I don't want to sound critical. Drawing fire is normally an automatic thing. So I would assume that the positions we end up in, it's because it's in a gaming environment, and you need to get the AI to do. I cannot recall for once in all the time I spent there, and I spent more than 11 years there, that I was ever asked to go and draw fire. Not that I... Okay, which of you lads are going to pop up front there, lads? I'm not quite sure that that's the way to play cricket, as they would say in British. So, if we wanted to do this, we would set up for an assault, and you get your people in position. So if we're saying they've lost sight of the enemy, then it's then it means we are trying to fight over the dead ground. I would suggest that in this situation it would have been better to have withdrawn and to do an entire left or right flank where you can pass over the dead ground to where the enemy is. By looking at the terrain here, it looks like there's a bit of a high ground over the two water holes, and that it may even have been better to go around and fight from an area where you don't have all this dead ground to fight over. Remember, in warfare, it's the element of surprise. It's a principle of warfare. If you've lost that surprise, you are like the defending side will always have the advantage. So what will give the attacking side the advantage? It's either superior firepower, superior skill, superior tactics. So if we keep beating the same drum, it's unlikely to have the desired effect. So I think the one thing we are probably missing here is a bit of an indirect weapon. That's why I asked earlier if the guys had mortars. 60 mil Patmore in this regard would be great. Because all you need to do is just to keep the heads down while you get the assault going. In terms of conflict, this is a really long conflict for a small team to have. So it's again an indication of equal the two sides are.
Yes, they were, from the gaming building's perspective, we had 28 hostiles, among them 2 PKMs and 4 RPKs, and the rest AK-47s. So every time I see a pond like that, I think of the lead warriors guy that was slurping water at Waterhole 2.
What happened to him?
At Waterhole 2, when he was slurping water there.
Okay, so now we see the vehicles moving for the first time into the terrain, right?
Yes.
So now it's for the first time that we see actually the enemy saying, right, somehow they feel that there's less return fire. So maybe the attack from the LMGs has worked and they've isolated a couple of the machine gunners. And now they can work towards the objective and start looking at it.
Yes.
Alright, I'm sure this is a gaming thing, but in real life nobody would sit in the open like that. You move from cover to cover. You make it as difficult for the enemy as you can. I understand it's tough when you lie down and you can't shoot. You take the deck, you look, you observe, you lift, shoot, next, next, next.
Okay, cover, incoming.
If you understand what I'm saying, Johan, there's this big yellow bush there, but there's nobody sort of using it as cover.
Yes.
Contacts moving 100.
So while those guys are moving up in the footpath, these guys are still getting contact from this side. So this gives them like a flanking.
Exactly, and I think if we had done this very earlier in the conflict, we wouldn't have had this 20-minute standoff. Sure, if you have 3 vehicles, you're probably going to wear it out, but it's not normal to engage in this long distance harassment thing. This is a brute force exercise. Okay, Johan, I confirm where we are now. The guys are searching through the objective.
That's correct, yes.
And they are sort of now going to see what's happened, who's left, what's coming and what's not coming.
That's right, but effectively following the footpath to try and track the guys from behind.
Okay, so I just want to make two comments. Once you've sort of at the end of the firefight and you want to go through the objective, 1 or 2 things are going to happen. You've either been lured into it, so you have to maintain really straight line. If you're outside of sequence now, the guys that walk in front will get decimated, you'll have a gap in your defense and you will have to draw back. So in this is, everybody says, are we ready to advance? On the signal, everybody stands up, your 2 stopper groups maintain suppressing fire, and you stand up and you walk 2 to 3 k's an hour, straight line abreast. If you see something, you shoot. At that point, anything that moves is worth a double tap. So this often happens that if somebody's been shot and there's a body, you'll take another couple of shots as you go through, because this is the time where a desperate guy will fight back, somebody will land there and lob a grenade. This is not a time to loiter, because you are right in between where everybody is. The emotions are high, the adrenaline is high, so you get through, you work your way through the objective, and on the other side you reorganize. If you take the pressure off now, the enemy regroups and attacks again. Okay, so here we get to where they've left their rucksacks, which is where they would have been assembled when they heard the vehicles. This is not a time to look at any of the stuff. There's a very good chance that there's grenades left underneath it or booby traps. Stay focused, fight through the objective. Walk through it, clear the objective.
Uninteractable.
It's a good thing. Next time we must booby trap that.
You should not have said that in the video. Now they will know it's coming.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things you can do, and it's a very simple thing to do. If you've lost a firefight, you leave something in the open, it attracts attention. It's as simple as taking the grenade, pulling the pin, leaving it under the object, so the next time somebody picks it up, 3 seconds later you've got an explosion, and it just creates the diversion again. So we have an old saying, it's an old Recce thing, stay in the moment. Right now the moment is we've won the firefight, we're advancing, we want to consolidate our position. It doesn't help to walk one by one behind each other. We stay line abreast. We keep left, we keep right, 7 to 10 meters apart. We walk. If somebody stops, we stop. We see, we advance. We cover the objective. The moment you start walking one by one single file, if you see something to your left, you're likely to shoot your own friend. So on this regard, yeah, I definitely will mark down this group on there searching through the objectives here. This is a line abreast exercise. Also, the other thing I think where we can challenge the tactics is we've left the firepower all at the back. If something happens to these guys now, the firepower is too far back. So if we're going to have this, and you're worried about RPGs, or you're worried about a hastily planted mine or something, then your firepower has to come It's the one part I felt that Zulu Alpha could have done better, is they haven't used their firepower well enough. They've always had the troops in the front, and the LMGs has not been used to maximum effect.
Yes, maybe in this bush, but I gotta say, they fired off a few thousand rounds from that hill.
Maybe they only needed 200 if they were closer, you are.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so I think in every formation, and I don't want to refer to the board on the back, we can put in some other things. I see the quality is not good enough. The moment both parties are line abreast facing each other, it's fair fight. You don't want to be in a fair fight. You want to dominate the contact. The way to do that is to neutralize the enemy's firepower, and that you do by taking a flanking attack. In this particular instance, you've got massive mobility with your vehicles. Send one vehicle with an LMG and 4 people to the side and let them sweep up the side. It's a basic principle of running an ambush, getting firepower. So I'd like to see that going forward. On the first mission, we haven't knocked anybody down on tactics because it was the first time we are giving commentary, but in the future we will definitely be a bit more severe in our criticism of this. We want to see the basic drills get done, 1 foot on the ground, 1 foot forward. So if your vehicles is the foot on the ground, then your people start line abreast and they walk and till they open fire. So if your vehicles are flanked, it's fine. So it sort of seems here that we in the vehicles are going to sit, drink coffee while you guys go and sort out the problem. So it doesn't come through well.
Do you not think perhaps they held the vehicles here to act as a stopper group in case the enemies fled out of the bush when the guys went up to the footpath?
Johan, it's unlikely that the enemy is going to do a double flanking attack. So if you're worried about that, then you make your half moon and you move across. That's not what it says. It doesn't make sense. So yes. It's possible, but it's unlikely.
No, I mean to stop fleeing enemies. Enemies fleeing from the bush as they enter the footpath.
So to flee enemy from the side, you leave 1 in the middle and 2 on the flanks. Here you've got all your firepower concentrated in the middle. So let's not belabor the point. I make provision that on the ground in first person view the terrain is slightly different than where I see it, but I don't want to be critical where it's not necessary.
Yes, but I agree with you. Vehicles in the bush, those guys would have been completely isolated if they hit contact there.
Yeah, so it's just not the way we do things. So let's leave it at that. So I understand that some of the guys are busy getting wounded and this and that, and maybe in between they've missed something. So what we want to see is much more structure, much more simple rehearsed drills. Okay guys, this is the phase of the attack. We think we're ready to advance, we go. It's time to search the objective. There's a clear command. Get ready to search the objective, stand up, walk. Then everybody walks through the objective. At that point, everybody stays line abreast. If at that stage you have some guys at the back dressing the wounded and loading the dead people, that's normal, but your search party maintains formation. Your maximum firepower at the moment is on the vehicles. You don't have any LMGs to take off, so unless you take them off the vehicles, you have to send a vehicle or 2.
They're planning the exfiltration here.
Sure.
At least we can communicate that way. If you don't have a radio, get into a vehicle, start filling up. That's where it's exfil.
Okay, so big 1 and big 2 must be pulled back with it.
Okay, so this is the part of the mission now. The firefight is done. We haven't quite seen the feedback on how many enemy was killed and what they saw in the bush. So I'm not sure if there was a body count done and if they had a time to see what the end result was, if the enemy just left. But they are reorganizing, they accounting for the wounded, they're accounting for all the teams, they're getting organized, and then they will withdraw to base, back into own force territory.
Yes, they did not do any body count afterwards of the hostiles.
Did we get any feedback on what the result was
No.
from them? Not from the machine, from them.
No, not from them, no.
Okay. Okay, what would be normal in a situation like this is if you did engage the enemy, once you're done, you'd like to take as much information. Having a map from the enemy, having some notes would give an indication of their mission, what they plan to do, and it would help you to work out what you should do next. So obviously anything you can get in this situation is valuable to the total effort on the ground. Alright, so now we get to the question where originally they couldn't fit enough people onto the vehicles. How do they get everybody out now?
2 guys are on foot. You will see the commanding officer of this unit talk to the 2 guys on the foot,
Okay.
where he said that he's going to stick with them for a while.
Okay.
So it's ferrying them out again. So 2 of the vehicles will go drop off guys at the base, and then 1 vehicle will come and return and fetch these 2. Here it is.
Alright there. Yeah, so maybe it's a bit unfair on the commander to do that, so maybe you guys can develop a mod that can put a guy in the bonnet and you can just drive him out.
We're working on that. We're working on it.
Yeah, I think you're being a bit fair on your mission, commander. Yeah, okay, we'll walk with you for a bit and then we'll see how it goes.
So interesting here, I planted an anti-personnel mine here, and they miss it just. And you will see the vehicle at the right point decides to leave the road as well. And here comes the vehicle back empty to come and collect those 2 guys.
See, I hear some lovely English in the background. It's always good to have trained drivers, and everybody should stay to their task, right?
Yes. And he killed the commanding officer.
Aye. Now, if I was the OC of this mission, I'd be probably peeved at this stage.
You will hear the comments among them as well. Oh, we're going to hear it later.
Put him in the body bag. Not even sorry, Commander. Just put him in the fucking body bag. What about a bit of empathy there, guys?
Yeah. Have we got our friendlies?
Well, how do you call a friendly if your friendlies are the guys that run you down?
With friends like these, who needs enemies?
I think we need to rephrase friendlies and hostiles.
Did you see they left the R1 on the ground there?
Yep. See, that's what happens when the pressure is up.
That's fine. Purify he's a pro with us. Okay.
Alright, so let's wrap it up, Jan. So I think overall, again, I thought the general preparation of all the teams was fantastic. It speaks volumes for the guys that play, and I really enjoyed it. I do think as we go along, we'll find a better blend. So for the first round, I'm excited, and I'm happy to announce that on the whole, I think Zulu Alpha did enough to win the challenge. I think if we make a collage and we take the best parts of who played, I would think that the 75th briefing was excellent in their planning as much as any of the rest. From the bit that I've seen, I do believe that the British are reading the humour mistakes. I'd like to see a little bit more humour when it comes to these things until we get to the serious business. And then I do believe there was one team, I'm not sure if I can mention them on air, that really disintegrated because they failed to plan. And but all in all, fantastic challenge. I look forward to the rest of the year.
Yes, all in all, I think all of the teams, they're very good teams. The teams that participated, to just emphasize again, all of the teams that participated in this were scouted by us before we invited them, or highly recommended by people that we trusted. And we probably checked at their gameplay and their online and their social media and their videos. So we've made sure that we pick very good teams for this. Yes, as you mentioned, the teams that lacked the planning fell apart quite a bit. But they're going to be back for the next mission, they say, and we believe we're going to see some good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, all in all, guys, very enjoyable. Our next mission, Top Hat, which centers around the activities on Breach 14 during Savannah, will test the players a lot more. It's much more comprehensive, and it's got artillery, a bit of infantry, a few other things mixed in. Until then, please visit the shop, www.recceinc.co.za, and get the dog tags that we made specifically for this challenge. And thank you. Cheers.